Up dog.
Up dog. Up dog.
Up dog sports talk.
Hello, and welcome to Up Dog Sports Talk. My name is Matt Miller. I am your host today. Justin is not able to join us. He'll be back next week, but we have a big show for you turkeys on this Thanksgiving week. We have young and promising NFL coaches. Who's promising, who's not. We also have, is Jim Harbaugh going to stay in Michigan? We'll talk about it. The average age of the NFL head coach has actually been getting younger and younger over the last few years. And that is in part because NFL organizations want to pair a younger, brighter mind with a talented arm at quarterback. Some have worked, some have not. Kyle Shanahan, one big name that came from Atlanta, went over to the 49ers, took them to a Super Bowl. They lost that Super Bowl, and then this year they kind of fallen off a little bit. That's mainly due to injuries. It has been a weird year for everyone. 49ers will probably bounce back next year and compete in the division and kind of make their way back into the playoffs. Brilliant mind offensively. Along with John Lynch, have paired a pretty good defense together. But they have a lot of competition in that NFC West. They have Sean McVay, 34, another young head coach. Took the Rams to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I'm wearing their jersey right now. Kind of fell off a little bit last year. This year, their defense is in the top 5. Offense, not that great this year. They're kind of a slower paced offense. They're the only team without a touchdown going into the half. And that's not going to be good come playoff time. But Sean McVay's brilliant mind. He'll turn it around. The most exciting coach on this list is probably Mike Vrabel. Came from Ohio State. Played football for Patriots and the Chiefs. Coached for Ohio State and then got a job with the Tennessee Titans. Went 9-7 and 9-7. Took the Titans to the playoffs last year, and they beat the Patriots to end the dynasty. Now, we need a round of applause for that. If you live outside of the Boston area or outside of the Michigan area, you probably like Mike Vrabel. This show is a big fan of that. We have not been a fan of the New England Patriots, especially Justin. He's coming from the same division with being a Bills fan. Mike Vrabel did lose to the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs. This year started off pretty hot. Kind of fell off a little bit. They're looking to bounce back over the next few weeks. But Titans are actually in pretty good position with Mike Vrabel. Zach Taylor for the Bengals, on the other hand, not so much. He's 37 years old, so he has some time to grow, but not with the Bengals. A report came out the other day saying that Zach Taylor's lost to the locker room. Players have been fighting with coaches. Coaches have been fighting with players. Joe Burrow got hurt for all of this year and maybe all of next year. His time is probably done in Cincinnati, and it's probably going to take him a while to get back to a head coaching job in the NFL. Matt Rule, on the other hand, for the Carolina Panthers, he's 45 years old, so he's a little bit older for this list. But first-year head coach coming out of Baylor. Baylor made some bad decisions and then hired him to kind of turn the program around. He did just that, and then makes the leap to the Carolina Panthers. They're in a tough division, so they got the Saints, they got the Buccaneers. Atlanta's not really much competition these days. So he has a lot going for him because he has Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback and he has Christian McCaffrey at running back. Needs to work on the offensive line, needs to work on the defense, but he's pretty good at receiver. So he just needs to build on what he has and he'll be fine. Joe Judge, coming from the Bill Belichick family tree. He's 38 for the New York Football Giants. And it depends on what he does this year. If he wins the division, he's sticking around. If he does not, it may be time to think about moving on from him. Daniel Jones, taken pretty high in the draft, did pretty well last year, does not appear to be doing as well this year. Joe Judge may need some time to kind of learn a few more things before he steps back into the head coaching ring. But at the end of the day, since he's coming from the Bill Belichick family tree, I think he'll be okay. Matt LaFleur, 40 years old. Very good football team right now, mainly bandaged up by the great play of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, continues to play at a very high level. Defense not playing so well, but they have a good running game. So if Aaron Rodgers leaves, they have Jordan Love, who remains to be seen if he's the future or not. Or are they going to run the ball 50 times a game after Aaron Rodgers leaves? But Matt LaFleur has to ride this Aaron Rodgers wave as long as he can, because that team is not going to be very good after he leaves. Sean McDermott, a little bit older, 46. Had to include him on this list because Justin is a Bills fan. And he's not 60, so he's young. Turn the Bills around. The Bills have always been kind of like an 8-8 team, 9-7, 7-9, kind of in that range. Sean McDermott Anthony Lynn took over, kind of made him a little bit better, but Sean McDermott took over from Anthony Lynn, and this year they're Super Bowl contenders. They made the playoffs last year. That remains to be seen what's going on with that. And Kevin Stefanski, 38 years old. He's a promising young coach for the Browns, trying to turn them around. Browns have done pretty well. Browns have always been that laughingstock of the NFL for the past 20 years. They made the playoffs once. Right now, they're second in the division behind the Steelers. Stefanski has a lot going for him with that team. It just kind of is up to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield plays well, he's sticking around. If they move on from Baker Mayfield and they continue to have a kind of turnaround at the quarterback position, he's probably going to be gone. But if he can have success with Baker Mayfield or bring in a guy like, let's say, Aaron Rodgers, I think he's going to stick around for the Browns for a while. And Browns are in pretty good position. Browns fans should be happy with Kevin Stefanski. Like I talked about earlier, Cliff Kingsbury turned the Cardinals around. Him and Kyler Murray kind of run around. They paired them together. Going to be sticking around for quite a while. That division is tough. He has an uphill battle against him. Needs to work on the defense and a little bit on the offensive line. Promising young coach, promising young team. Will probably make the playoffs this year, but after that, it kind of depends on free agency and draft. But Cliff Kingsbury in a pretty good position right now. Matt Nagy, on the other hand, for Chicago, started the year off 5-0. He did really well. Did really, really well. And then all of a sudden that offense went flat. Could not run the ball. And now they can't even pass the ball. They don't have their top two starters, Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles. They're probably going to struggle until they get one of them back. And even then, they're probably going to still struggle. If Matt Nagy's not fired this year, I can see him kind of walking out over the next couple years. But his success is not going to be tied to Chicago. If he's successful, it's going to be somewhere else. And the last one we have is Adam Gase. I included him on here simply because he is a stooge. He ruined 2 NFL franchises. One of them's coming back. The other one is going to be another 50 years of irrelevance. He's 0-10 with the Jets, and he's going to be fired after this season. But bright spot for Jets fans, Jim Harbaugh may be a candidate. Now, nothing's come out and was said, but if you look at what Jim Harbaugh's done at Michigan, it's time to move on. It's time to move on. Jim Harbaugh is 49-21, and normally that's not bad. That's actually a really good record. But at Michigan, there's higher standards, and he's not meeting those standards. In 2015, Jim Harbaugh was 10-3. He had a Citrus Bowl win over Florida, and in the regular season, he did lose to Utah, Michigan State, and Ohio State. 2016, he went 10-3. He had an Orange Bowl loss to Florida State, with a regular season loss to Iowa and Ohio State. 2017, he went 8-5, a little bit step back, went to the Outback Bowl, and lost to South Carolina. Regular season losses to Michigan State, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. 2018, they did get a little bit better, went 10-3 again. A Peach Bowl loss to Florida, and regular season losses to Notre Dame and Ohio State. Last year, they went 9-4, with a Citrus Bowl loss to Alabama. Regular season losses were Wisconsin, Penn State, and yep, you guessed it, Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh has not beaten Ohio State in his time at Michigan. He was brought in as a guy that they thought that could do that. If you're brought in to beat Ohio State and you can't beat Ohio State, you're not going to stick around very long. If you go 1-5 in your bowl games, probably not going to stick around very long. Everything's kind of pointing to Jim Harbaugh exiting Michigan after this season. If you kind of move on from that, look at his days back at Stanford, he was at San Diego State, had a really good record at San Diego State, moved on from them, went to Stanford. 2007, he took over a 1-11 team, turned that team into a 4-8 team. Not the greatest, but there's progress there. 2008, a little bit of progress, 5-7. 2009, they went 8-5 with a freshman redshirt, Andrew Luck. 2010, Andrew Luck set the college football world on fire and took that team to 12-1. Jim Harbaugh realized that he did not do much at Stanford, so he decided to take a leap to the NFL. The 49ers took a chance on him. 49ers were 6-10 in 2010. Didn't have any expectations. They thought that this team was going to be bad and in a rebuilding mode. 2011, Jim Harbaugh's first season, 13-3, makes the Super Bowl. Lost the Super Bowl partially because half the game was spent with a blackout and all the fans were blacked out at that point. 2012, 11-4-1. 2013, 12-4, and then in 2014, 8-8. He was kind of run out of San Francisco. There were reports of him losing the locker room. But he did take an Alex Smith that everyone thought was going to be a bust. Turned him into halfway decent quarterback. Then took Colin Kaepernick. No one really heard of his name outside of Nevada. Took him to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. Then things kind of went downhill from there. Jim Harbaugh was kind of forced out. Went to Michigan. Hasn't done a whole lot at Michigan while he was there. He has a couple of big wins against Penn State and a few teams here and there. But if you can't consistently beat your rivals of Michigan State and Ohio State, you're not going to stick around very long. And if Jim Harbaugh gets fired or leaves Michigan, his best bet is the NFL. If he goes to the NFL, he has the Jets. Adam Gase isn't going to be there. Who are in line to get Trevor Lawrence, one of the best big-name quarterbacks coming out of the draft in a long time. You also have the Jaguars, who are probably out of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, but they could end up getting Justin Fields. And Jim Harbaugh, he's a Michigan guy, but he can't deny talent. Justin Fields is a really good quarterback. He could do a lot with Justin Fields. He could also go to the Texans, who already have an established quarterback of Deshaun Watson. The only thing is he's going to have to rely on free agency because Billy O. Stooge, Billy O. Buttchin, Billy O'Brien ruined that team. So if Jim Harbaugh goes there, he has an uphill battle. He could stay in the great state of Michigan, become the Detroit Lions head coach. A lot of Michigan fans will not be happy with that because they have to see his face every Sunday instead of every Saturday. But Jim Harbaugh looks like he's done in Michigan. Now that was the show. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. If you like this show, give us a like and a subscribe down below. If you didn't, then just pretend like you never saw this. Justin will be back next week, and have a Thanksgiving, everyone.